Hi, good day. This is Talita Sara Paoste. I will report today about the Section 4 Confusion or Merger of Rights. Merger, the absorption of a lesser state or interest into the greater one held by the same person. Compare. Confusion, the incorporation of superseding of one contract by another. Here's the article that we discussed today. Article 1275. The obligation is distinguished from the time the characters of creditor and debtor are merged in the same person. Example, Bianca owns Julia 50,000 pesos. Before Julia can collect, she dies and the credit passes to his heir Gerald. Sometime in 2019, Gerald owned Bianca the amount of 50,000 arising from Gerald purchasing of a racing horse. In satisfaction of his debt, Gerald assigned to Bianca the credit he inherited from Julia. So there is now a merger of a creditor and a debtor in a one person. According Article 1275, the creditor and the debtor is a one person. That's why we called merger. There's an requisites of confusion or merger. Number 1, merger of the characters of creditor and debtor must be in the same person, according to Article 1275. Number 2, the merger must take place in the person of either the principal creditor or the principal debtor. And number 3, the merger must be complete and definite. Okay, where we go to Article 1276. Merger which takes place in the person of a principal, debtor, and creditor benefits the guarantor. But there's confusion which take place in the person of any of a latter does not extinguish to obligation. In Article 1276, there's a merger but there's a confusion. Merger is the meeting of one person of the qualities of creditor and debtor with respect to the same obligation. And the guarantor is a person, is an organization that promises to pay a debt owned by a second person if a latter fails to repay it. The effect of merger on guarantor. Accessory follows the principal, the guarantee being considered as accessory obligation. The extinguish of the accessory obligation, the guarantee does not carry, which is that of the principal obligation. The principal obligation which is called the debt. The effect of merger and the person of principal debtor or creditor. Example, Jonard owns Kevin 300,000 pesos, guaranteed by Joy. So Kevin assigned his right to Vanessa, who assigned his right, but Vanessa assigned her right to Ernie, and Ernie assigned his right to Jonard. What is the effect? So the effect is Jonard's obligation is extinguished, Joy is released from her obligation, and Joy the guarantor was benefited. Effect of merger and the person of guarantor. Example, Jonard owns Kevin 300,000, guaranteed by Joy. Kevin assigned his rights to Vanessa, who assigned her right to Ernie, and Ernie assigned his rights to Joy. What is the effect? The effect, Jonard still have to pay Joy. However, the contract of guarantee is extinguished, but not Jonard's obligation to pay the 300,000. Joy is the new creditor and demand payments from Jonard. So it's still confusion. That's why I don't understand what is it. Article 1277. Confusion does not extinguish as a joint obligation except as regards the share corresponding to the creditor or debtor whom the two characters confer. In Article 1277, there's a confusion. The confusion does not distinguish because the joint obligation. So in a joint obligation, if the confusion take place in one the joint of the joint debtors, the principal obligation is partially extinguished up to the share which corresponds to him. This is because of the nature of joint obligation, where the joint debtors are liable for rata or equally the debts being considered distinct for one another. Example, Rara and Devi own 2 million from Frank. Rara and Devi had the agreement that Rara will pay the whole 2 million to Frank. The extinguishes Devi's obligation to Frank. However, Devi will liable to pay 1 million to Rara. Example, Hannah and Karen jointly made a negotiable promissory note to favor of Jenny as they obtained a loan from this latter in the amount of 50,000. Subsequently, Jenny negotiated the promissory note to Hannah of 50,000 pesos. Subsequently, Jenny negotiated the promissory note to Hannah. Is the obligation of Hannah and Karen extinguished? Merger took place only when regard the obligation of Hannah. Therefore, Hannah's obligation is extinguished by Karen's obligation. Remain Karen creditor na will be Hannah on the amount of 25,000 pesos. According in a solidary obligation, if the confusion takes place in one of the solidary debtors, the entire obligation is extinguished. Because of the nature of solidary obligations, wherein the solidary debtors are bound to render entire compliance with the presentation. The remedy of the debtor is whom confusion took place may claim reimbursement from the co-debtors for the share which corresponds to them.